Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Sorry I'm a little late, you guys. I'm going to blame it partially on Kai Lucas Zachary because I wanted to check out the stuff he was just talking about. Okay, so who's in? 411 Aquatic Trust, Shari D, welcome. Heart's Truth, Angels Don't Fall, John Bernard Shaw, Sapioids in. Let's see. Not too many people today. Adam Anson. I don't think I remember Angels being here before. Okay, anyways. So here's what Kai Lucas was talking about the teeth in the squid tentacles. Yes, that one has been on in the past. However, I did want to go over the salmon thing. I've mentioned this before. Salmon during mating season. Originally, I only remember the change being that they turn red during mating season, but they're getting this weird beaky mouth thing here. So this is like a regular salmon, and this is the mating season salmon. The beaky mouth thing I mentioned before, I don't remember them looking like that. But now they're getting this hump thing too, which is kind of newish. Not all of them show that, but pink ocean phase, pink female freshwater phase. So now we have this other additional phases, this hump phase for the male. Look at that one. That's crazy. That hump thing is new for me. The beak thing was what I was talking about previously as being really strange looking. It's gotten more pronounced now. I remember originally them just like looking like ordinary fish. And then they would just turn red for the mating season. That was it. Look at that. That's pretty crazy. Check that out. I saw it on one of these shows, these survival shows, a number of years ago, and I just saw those weird beaks and everything, and I thought, oh, that must be a different kind of salmon or something that I'd never seen before. But they've gotten even more extreme than I've seen. Look at that. Crazy. It looks like it's got a red sweater on. The red didn't used to be so demarcated like that. Totally alien looking beasts now. Sockeye salmon. I can't believe I eat those. So yeah, Kai Lucas, I totally agree with you. They're just, this is nuts. They don't look like they're all quite that crazy. There didn't used to be that much difference between the different salmons either. Don't want to say. Urban explorers are finding more abandoned houses. My jersey number from high school changed from 30 to 25. Uh, yeah, I would be. There's a lot. It seems like there hasn't been a ton of more global Emmys. It looks like there's been a lot more glitch in the matrix, like personal Emmys. And part of it might be that they're just getting really blasé to the global ones, like there's another word change in songs. There's like so many lyric changes in songs now that I don't even go over it anymore because it's just like, oh, this changed to that or whatever. So that's probably part of it is when the Mandela was new, we're like, oh my God, this one word changed and it was a big deal. And now we're just like, meh. Spelling changes, you're just like, same old, same old. So I think they just don't hit as hard as they used to because we're just getting inured to them to a large extent. So I think that's part of it. I'm trying to figure out if they've really slowed down a lot or if it's just that if we don't care as much about some of the smaller ones as we used to. It might be a little bit of both, but it definitely does seem slower. But I think part of it is just that it's a lot of it's old news now. It's just like, yeah, whatever. There's a slight change in Spain's shape, or there's a slight change in Africa. It's like almost doesn't matter anymore because we've seen so many of them. So it takes more to really get on our radar than it used to. Movie title changes. Yeah, Julia and Julia is now Julia. I don't know that one that well, so maybe I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. But okay. So, anyways, on to the Manila Dellas. I do have this one. I actually saw a couple times in the last week. I think I saw it first when I went back to Arizona. So I just got back on Monday. So I was gone Thursday through Monday. And I saw this one when I was in Arizona. Mars has glaciers now. I saw that when I was in Arizona. But then today I saw another article that says it also had ice ages. Earth has had at least 5 major ice ages. Now it appears Mars, the next planet outward from the sun, has undergone anywhere from half a dozen to 20 ice ages in the past several 100 million years. So, but they're saying that the glaciers on Mars got covered with dirt. There's another one of those underground Mandelas, like everything is being discovered underground. So they're saying that Mars has all these glaciers from its ice ages, and then they just stayed there and got covered with dirt. That's the new story. So they're saying like there's a big glacier right here. This was what it would look like if there was not dirt over it. Glaciers below 3 craters in Hellas Planitia region of Mars, now covered by rocky debris and what they might look like if the ice was exposed. Just as on Earth, glaciers have flowed across the surface of Mars in the distant past, but while Earth's glaciers have mostly receded and are still shrinking, Mars glaciers are frozen in place and covered by rocky debris. All right, so this article now is actually just trying to say how they figured out that there were multiple ice ages, and it just has to do with the way the rocks on top of the glaciers are arrayed, made them assume that there were multiple ice ages. So they just skip right over the fact that Mars used to not have any water at all because it was a dry planet. And one of our main concerns, the biggest concern we had about colonizing Mars was lack of water because there wasn't any. And then all of a sudden there were these icy poles of ice and on the north and south, and then they were talking about being like ice in even other places like frost and permafrost and stuff. So now we've got glaciers. So Mars is actually very watery now, really quite watery. Makes me laugh. I mean, this one is, it's like one of the biggest Mandelas for me, and it just keeps going. Last week they found a pink lake in Dubai. I mean, come on, this is a tiny place. How could they miss it? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess they could argue that it just turned pink recently due to bacteria. But still, yeah, I mean, airplanes would notice a pink lake, I think. Keep us busy with the whole presidential ordeal, wondering what his crap is going on with the puppet show. Cowboys versus aliens is now Cowboys and Aliens. Yeah, that's an older Mandela for me. Ronan the Voice is in. Welcome. Colorado Skywatch is in. Okay, so what's that thing in the thumbnail? Is this one's from Shari D. I couldn't find a ton on it, but it's apparently made this tank bike, lehairte tank bike, in 1938. So it's pretty old. It went 25 miles per hour. It was supposedly superior at climbing things. 25 miles an hour is pretty darn fast for a 1938 tank bike. Here's an image of some dude back in the day riding the thing. That looks pretty sophisticated for 1938, if you ask me. I'm a little suspicious on that one. I mean, that's another one where I can't like prove that it's a Mandela, but I don't know. These weird things just keep popping up, and suspiciously sophisticated. Tractor Cycle, 1938. The Beast appeared in the February 1938 edition of Modern Mechanics magazine. It features a tractor-type drive belt as its means of locomotion in places of conventional wheels. The tractor cycle only went 25 miles per hour, but it could travel over more varied terrain than a motorcycle, especially when it came to climbing. Steering was accomplished by turning the handlebars, which moved the belt sideways. The proposed final version would come with a machine gun mounted on the front, because at 25 mph, who couldn't afford to shoot some bad guys at the same time? Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I didn't actually have a lot of stuff to put on the front on the thumbnail, so this one got the nod, and it definitely is cool looking. So thank you, Shari. Okay, this one comes from Strange Times, another person commenting on my channel. Who do you remember that, for the Americans mostly, although this might be a wide enough legend that others will have heard of it, who chopped down the cherry tree? What president chopped down the cherry tree? Do you remember? There's actually a number of Mandelas mixed up kind of with this one, but we'll start with that because this is the one Strange Times remembers. One person having chopped down the cherry tree, famous politician / president of our country, and then said, "I cannot tell a lie," after he got caught. Who did that? No cheating now. You got to go by memory. President Lincoln. Sapio votes Lincoln. Mandela effect, quantum stuff, Texas, George. Ronan the Voice remembers Honest Abe, Lincoln. Shari D remembers Lincoln. Shari's, let's see. So it looks like more people. Angels Don't Fall remembers Washington. Welcome Jumping Ship, by the way. All right, so this one is interesting. I actually remember Lincoln it was always Honest Abe for me that did Lincoln. And that is who Strange Times remembers. It looks like a lot of people do remember Lincoln. But apparently here it was actually George Washington. I'm surprised because that was always the story I always heard. Honest Abe, I cannot tell a lie, was always the Lincoln story for me. And so who, and you'll see like a ton of religion, a ton of, I'm like really kind of out of it, of what's the word? It's a ton of, whatever that word is we use for residual. That's the word, residual. Who chopped down that cherry tree? See, okay, there's all these Abraham Lincoln cherry tree, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, cherry tree myth. The cherry tree myth is the most well-known and longest enduring legend about George Washington. In the original story, when Washington was 6 years old, he received a hatchet as a gift and damaged his father's cherry tree. I never remember this being about George Washington. It was always Lincoln. Honest Abe, I mean, that was part of the story. Young George bravely said, I cannot tell a lie. I did it, cut it with my hatchet. Washington's father embraced him and rejoiced that his son's honesty was worth more than 1,000 trees. Ironically, this iconic story about the value of honesty was invented by one of Washington's first biographers, an itinerant minister and bookseller named Mason Locke Weems. All right, so now it's not even true about Washington, but it was about Washington, as far as I can tell. But so, of course, it's just a myth now, apparently. The cherry tree myth has endured for more than 200 years. Probably because we like the story. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it's a myth, but it's a myth about George Washington. Because, of course, all of the old stuff has to be wiped away and become a myth. So notice I didn't write anybody's name here. I just wrote George, who did it, right? Okay, so let's just do Lincoln chopped. And you see, it actually prompts me, Lincoln chopped cherry tree. Lincoln and the cherry tree, American Mine. After all, it's the book from which the fable of young George chopping down the cherry tree came. There is controversy as to who really chopped down the cherry tree. Was it George Washington or young Abraham Lincoln? Advertising. Are we going to load here, or are we just going to mess around? Some say it was Lincoln, and some argue it was Washington. Some even say there wasn't a cherry tree. As for me, I think there was a tree, and they both could have chopped it down, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. A story is told of Washington. Another story was told of Washington. I'm not seeing anything on Lincoln. Okay, so as best I can tell, the story, did Abraham Lincoln cut down a cherry tree? Number one answer, that was George Washington. Okay, so that's who did it, except for that's a myth too. Yeah, that just is wrong for me. It was Lincoln. Now remember, I read the story as I was reaching about the sexy Lincoln statue. I guess, I don't know, Lincoln is too girly to have cut down a cherry tree in this timeline. It kind of blows me away because it was always Honest Abe, and that was the story of how he was so honest that he could not tell a lie about the cherry tree. Shari D totally remembers Lincoln. Others remember George Washington. I don't know, different timelines. Oh, Epic Journeyman's on. You guys are duking it out over the number one Mandela for last year. We are pretty much tied between the missing visor wearing dog and poker playing dogs, or ice cap on Mars for the 2020 Mandela effect of the year. I don't know. I would probably have to vote the ice cap on Mars because I'm just 500% positive that Mars was a totally dry planet. But the dogs playing poker, and not just the missing visor for me. It's like the whole painting is kind of sucks now compared to how it used to be. So I wouldn't want to. I almost want to say I don't want to say the missing visor because it's the whole freaking painting, of which the visor is just one. I remember Washington 2 now that you said it, and I'm remembering two different timelines, complete with similar looking drawings. Hmm. Okay, so it looks like it's 50-50 on Lincoln versus Washington. Mars was as dry as a planet could be. Yeah, that was the whole thing. You know, they even said that there was no way without the atmosphere that the water vapor could stay on the planet. And there was a whole spiel. Of course, that was the same spiel that they gave for the moon, and now it's got ice also. Wasn't it something about a borrowed book and Abe Lincoln walking miles and miles to return it? I have never heard that story, frankly. The returning of the book story is completely alien to me. Lincoln, I'll just look it up and see. Lincoln walked miles to return book. Another prompt was a penny, to replace a penny, return a penny. The night when the Lincoln could... Even though Lincoln had very little formal education, he loved to read, and neighbors remember how he'd walk miles to borrow a book. Did Lincoln ever walk miles to return change to a store? All right, so that's a whole nother story I've never heard. Completely alien. Probably most of what is known about Lincoln's early life, including the brief time when he kept a store in New Salem, Illinois, is based on unreliable reminiscences written down many years later. Lincoln's scrupulous honesty is beyond question, however, and if he ever accidentally overcharged one of his customers, he would certainly have made every effort to pay it back. So I guess there's a story about him walking miles to return some money. Walk 6 miles to return a 3-cent overcharge. Huh. Okay, maybe. I don't know. I've never heard of those stories. I have an awesome meme for you right now if you want me to share it. Well, let's hear it. Lincoln was a bare knuckle fighter. Yeah, I don't think I remember hearing that in the past, but I did hear it like a couple years ago. One dog had a visor, another had a derby hat. What I remember is that, you know, there was more variety of dogs. They had a lot more interesting expressions. They were just way more interesting as far as their characters. They looked strangely human-like, yet they totally looked like dogs. I remember more cigar smoking. I don't know. It was a lot better quality painting. It just looked totally different. The dog selection was rather different and more well done. Mars was almost as big as Earth. Yeah, that's another one. Similar size to Earth. It was the closest size to Earth, but now that is Venus. I noticed how all the words of text are connected now in Windows, Android, etc. Yeah, that's an older Mandela for me. Your face really got elongated by a lot later. Remember your face shorter, like a third lower, a nose closer. Yes, I even talked about that last week. I do feel like there's more space between my eyes. Right, there's just a lot of territory right here that I really noticed it last week when I came back from Arizona. I looked in the mirror. I'm like, ugh, I think my eyes are back more. Somebody else commented on that too. I don't know. Are we all going for the Kardashian look now? I guess I don't know. Ring around the ring around the posy. Ring around the posy. Pockets full. Wait. It was ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Ring around the rosy, pockets full of posy. posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. That's what I remember. Let's see what it is now. Ring around the rosy. Pockets full of posies. Ashes, ashes. I don't know. It looks like it might still be there. Ring around a rosies. It was ring around the rosy. Pocket full of posies. A tissue, we all fell down. That's not right. Pocket full, ashes, ashes, we all fall. I've never heard of that tissue one. I have never heard of that. Ring around, it was the rosy. Ring around the rosy. Pocket full of posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Okay, so it looks like there's other versions now with tissues and stuff. All right, mine is still there, though. Ashes, ashes. But there's also tissues. Tissues? Ia covered it, huh? A tissue. No, there was no tissues. I don't know what timeline that's from, but it's not mine. No tissues. Tissues. I think that must be like some kind of contamination from the virus or something. I say no tissues. Next thing you know, it's going to be face masks. We all fall down. Yes, dealer definitely wore a green visor. I do remember a green visor. Okay, so where are we? Okay, so we got that. Then the other one, I think I might have covered this one before, but it is kind of expanded. So you might remember this story of George Washington's wooden teeth, because he didn't have teeth, like he lost his teeth, so he had wooden teeth. Now, I always thought that it was wooden teeth for eons, but then recently they said, oh no, it wasn't wooden teeth, it was like hippo teeth. Actually, it wasn't hippo teeth. It was like animal teeth, but I don't remember it being hippo teeth. Now they're saying it was hippo teeth, brass or gold, and slave teeth. Now, I'm positive that the last time I checked that there was nothing about slave teeth or hippo teeth. There was some kind of other animal teeth, but it wasn't hippo. I'm like, you're in America. Where the heck do you get hippo teeth? I mean, wouldn't you just use like cow teeth or something else? But apparently now it's hippo teeth. Like, where'd you get those? But it was also slave teeth. Slave teeth. I am absolutely positive that wasn't part of the story last I checked. So I'm like, well, what is it? What are you doing with what's the deal with the slave teeth? So I looked this up. All right, records at Mount Vernon showed that he bought teeth from slaves. Okay, so he paid for them, but still, I don't quite get it. Like, so I look it up, and apparently now you can transplant your teeth from like other people. And so they would do that. So they would actually, like slaves would actually yank out their teeth and sell them. Not these aren't teeth that just like, at first I just assumed that like, maybe their tooth fell out and then they would just kind of make a cement and use it for dentures or something. But no, they actually would, in the current timeline, they yank out their teeth and sell them, roots and all, and transplant those suckers into some other person's mouth. So I was just like, what? That's disgusting and creepy and didn't work before, because before that would not be your DNA. and your body would be like attacking that tooth. I mean, immediately, because you just put foreign objects in your mouth and you implant foreign proteins in your mouth, your body would be like, die, die. I mean, that would just not work. But apparently, in this timeline, it works to some extent. Tooth transplant. So this is the deal, was that these slaves would yank out their freaking teeth, and then other people would transplant them. So there's two kinds. Allotransplant, where tooth is transferred from one individual to a different individual of the same species. Nowadays, it is largely abandoned as a practice, carries many risks, including transmission of infections such as syphilis and histocompatibility issues. Long-term success of allotransplantation of teeth was also extremely rare, usually lasting about 6 years. Okay, so if you transplanted teeth, it would last like 6 years, which is like 6 years longer than I would have ever conceived of it lasting. I mean, so you can stick it in there for 6 whole freaking years and it would stay in there. And you could use it for 6 years. Apparently, and then there's autotransplantation, where tooth is transferred from one site to another in the same individual. I just never heard of this, either of these before. Like, it used to be that the tooth was all kind of cemented in where it went. You couldn't just yank it out like transplanting a tree. But apparently, you can now. A 1787 caricature by Thomas Rowlandson depicting the transplantation of teeth. In the center stands a fashionably dressed dentist removing a tooth from a poor chimney sweep. The aristocratic lady seated to the left of the viewer is watching and waiting to receive the tooth. However, the caricature was aimed at highlighting the abuse of the poor, not the transplant procedure. Okay, so apparently they just yanked teeth out of poor people and stuck them in the rich people, according to the current timeline, which I have never heard of. And that is just freaking creepy. Super creepy. All right, so that, to me, is the big Mandela there, is I just kind of got onto this Washington tooth thing, and the next thing I know, yeah, the number of roots for the teeth has changed, now 1 to 2 roots instead of 3 to 4. Yeah, and I guess that makes it easier. That's a good point, because we were just talking about that the last few weeks. How much would they get for teeth? You know what? It didn't say. I was always taught it was wooden teeth. Yeah. Well, I was taught it was wooden teeth, and about like 6 months ago, I saw they were saying it was animal teeth, like bone. But that was it. They didn't say anything about slave teeth. And I looked at it several times. There was nothing about slave teeth. Now, every one of the stories says slave teeth. Oh, you know what? I forgot the other one I was going to mention was they also say that I'm going to dig this up. All right. Washington's. So he did get dentures later too, probably because the transplanted slave teeth didn't last long enough. So these are the dentures apparently that he had at some point. He had different sets of them. This is another one here with this weird contraption thing, so they would open and close. There's this one. So it is said that that's why he had that kind of bulgy thing on his side of his face. Also, he said it caused him a lot of pain, and he took laudanum for it, which is, an addictive drug, painkiller type of deal. So apparently he is a laudanum addict now. Troublesome teeth were made of bone, hippopotamus, ivory, human teeth, lead, brass screws, and gold metal wire. but not wood. This is the only remaining full set of the many dentures he wore throughout his life. Okay, so I don't know. This kind of just continues on with this pattern of like everybody and their uncle being a drug addict, including most of the two sides fighting in World War II, both the American side and the German side. So now George Washington apparently seems to be a laudanum addict due to his ongoing dentures problem. Let's see, is that everything on those? All right, okay, that covers that. That's kind of how I end up on these Mandelas, is I see one, and then I wait a minute, what's this say? And then what does that mean? And pretty soon I've got like 3, 4, 5 Mandelas. '60s in America, laudanum. I don't actually know much about laudanum. Let me just do a quickie on that one. Laudanum. Oops. Tincture of opium containing 10% powdered opium by weight. Okay, so he's an opium addict. Reddish brown and extremely bitter, laudanum contains almost all of the opium alkaloids, including morphine and codeine. Analgesic tincture in ethanol. Opioid crisis, a frightening, paralyzed drug epidemic. All right, I don't know. I suspect we'll hear more about George Washington and his laudanum, because that actually is the first I was hearing of him taking laudanum, was with the slave teeth thing. It showed up around the same time. So 10% opium. So he was an opium addict, supposedly took it through a big chunk of his life, was the impression that they were giving. All right. So yeah, I think we're just going to hear more of that eventually. I don't know. It just seems like drugs is getting back into the whole history of everything. All right, this one is from Mark Tyus, and this one kind of, I don't think dogs could really do this before. It kind of fits with animals getting smarter. All right, so this woman basically got little punch things that had a word in it that dogs, you would hear dogs say, like sit or like outside, and things that dogs might be interested in. And then she taught her dogs the meaning of all these punches. And so basically this dog supposedly can understand all of these things. So say if the dog hears something outside, the dog will punch the outside button, and maybe like the look button, like look outside, outside look, mom look outside. If mom leaves, he'll punch by. If he can't find a toy, he'll punch toy where. And supposedly he can do like sentences and everything. So there was one called Stella that can do this, and then somebody else apparently also taught their dog
Communication
yeah,
pad.
this might have been
She
Stella.
can shout commands like play, beach, and park.
All right, I'm going to kill the sound. But basically, supposedly, the dog can just say what they want and punch on this thing. Of course, I think that a dog would basically, if they really could do this, they'd probably sit there all day going, treat, 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 treat. And maybe they didn't put treat down here for that reason. But I think that dogs are just getting smarter. Did we really just come up with this concept now of teaching dogs to communicate in this way? I mean, they've done it with monkeys before, like gorillas and stuff, but they never ever, they did it with sign. They never tried it with dogs until just now. So it's becoming a thing now where people are teaching their dog this. The dogs really do look like they're very carefully seeking out the right punch button and punching it, and then the button makes the sound that you taught them so they can, I don't know, it looks interesting. I think this might be kind of just an evolution of dogs, basically. So this one is from Mark Tyus. Good find, good find. All right, this one is from Thomas Larson. We there was a big thing a few years ago about the star forts. I think it was pretty well covered, but it just occurred to me that I have never mentioned this, although I've seen them. But Thomas Larson also mentioned these. Is the star cities? It went from star forts to star cities. So I'm just gonna go over, and this is not a super spangly new Mandela for me, but it's interesting. Cities. Marvels of so they're quite beautiful. So there's now not just forts exactly, but like whole cities all over Europe. Supposedly the story is that so there's whole cities in here. And the story is that there was so much fighting all the time that they would just build their whole cities inside this star pattern. And some of them, the patterns are still there. So this one, some of these, they are not maintaining the water anymore, and some of them they are. Some of the cities, you can see the pattern in like the old roads, but the grass is gone. This one still has the grass, but not the water. These are just springing up all over the place. So I guess the story now is that there were all these little cities all over the place that were all star cities. This one has some of the old patterns in it. Again, some of the old patterns. So, of course, well, I don't know if you know this, but the Tartaria theory, they wonder if there was some kind of power generation happening with the star pattern and the water. I don't know if how that's gonna turn out, but because it's not really exactly clear how these pointy structures really helped protect that much, and certainly that's a lot of work to put together for these things. Oops, I don't think I wanted YouTube. Let me go back. No. I think it's goofed up here. I think this is the one I wanted. They are scattered all over Europe, but their perfect geometrical beauty can only be fully admired when seen from above, like snowflakes viewed through a magnifying glass. Blah, blah. Okay, Brielle. Someplace in Italy. I'm not sure how that's a star fort. Maybe if you pan back. Portugal, Almeida. Czech Republic, Terezin. So they're all over in all these different countries. So yeah, yes, good observation. I just somehow it just kind of didn't notice how much that had expanded. We'll be doing a Mandela show soon, Epic Journeyman. Well, cool. I don't think you've done much on your YouTube before this, have you? It seems like I accept things in a game, like a video game, and then marvel as it seems to manifest in reality. Yeah, we've seen that a lot. It just stuff shows up in video games and TV, and then the next thing you know, there it is. I'm on Aftermath FM tomorrow, 6 p.m. PST, right before Clyde Lewis's show. We're talking about Earth 2 and Mirror World, if you want to listen to the premiere. Well, cool. That's weird because there's a lot of effort to make them into a star, but for who to see? I don't, they're kind of seeming to indicate that it was some kind of defensive wall structure to protect against invasion, but it's rather unclear to me what makes them so much better than just like an ordinary wall. It's a lot of work. I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of argument for it, but since I didn't have those in the past timeline, I'm, very suspicious about that. The dog on YouTube put nose right on part of woman found cancer tumor. Yeah, that one I don't find as hard to comprehend because dogs have a really good sense of smell. And so, like, diseased flesh could smell differently. And a dog can instinctively sense that some part is not healthy. So I don't think you have to be as cognitively developed to just kind of say that smells like bad, bad stuff, okay? But then when you have a dog, making sentences in human words and like that, and that, I don't know, that to me is a bigger jump. I saw something about mummified monkeys now in Egyptian tombs. I've never heard of that before. No, I don't think I've ever heard of mummified monkeys. But, there's been more and more stuff showing up in the tombs and more animals showing up in Egypt than I remember, so. A doctor used to prescribe it in a cough syrup to my grandmother. She became addicted. Yeah, the laudanum. Yeah, well, opium. It's an opiate. There is a cat that used talk buttons. Mad is her favorite word. That's just so cat. That's just so cat. I just see like them always like going treat, 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 food, food. Okay, what's next? What's next? I don't have that super many. I actually did look really hard for Mandelas, or fairly hard this week. I did not find a ton of them. Got that one. Okay, this is kind of a smaller one, but I've never heard of this. So apparently, Walt Disney was a secret informer for the LA office of the FBI. So he was an FBI informant. Came to light under the Freedom of Information Act. I don't know, like, what kind of information search was even done to dig that up. But apparently, this has been known since 1993 that Walt Disney was an FBI informant. He was an informant for 26 years. What I didn't really find was what he was informing on. He was an informant. What was he informing on? When Disney, like many Americans, believed that there was a dire communist threat to the country. Walt Disney, a special agent in charge of SAC contract. All right, so now they're saying, well, he wasn't really an informant. He was just a contact for information. There's no information whether they got information from him or not. I don't know. That the story is a little weird. Disney showed the rough cuts of films to the FBI, and they made a number of requested changes. Disney worked with them on all of it, but he refused to give them final approval over the films. And they were so angry that they essentially ruined the FBI-Disney relationship, despite, again, Disney being very much pro the FBI in films. Then he did 2 films where he showed the FBI as a slapstick kind of thing. This outraged the FBI. Most of the FBI files on Disney are basically just them complaining about his comedic depictions of them in those 2 films. Anyway, I don't know. I've never heard of any of that, but I guess, all of the old media now is kind of getting tied up with, I don't know, fishy goings on, I guess. So it's not really surprising. So, I mean, there's that other Disney one that Walt Disney was not now cryogenically frozen as the first person to be cryogenically frozen. He was now cremated. So that's the other big old Mandela about Walt Disney. Other than the Walt Disneyland versus Walt Disney World controversy, people remembering different things as being the original names of the different locations. So kind of a smaller one. Check out his cartoon on weather control in the 50s. Look for Billy Cat buttons. I'm going to have to look that up. Okay, so what I really remember, it's Diane Fossey, doesn't have an E on her name anymore. Are you sure? Now I gotta check. Diane Fossey, magically showed up for me. She lost her E. It's true. Oh, that's funny. I think that's newer, too, because last time I checked there was an E on there. It looks goofy now. She magically showed up in the 90s for me. I'd never heard of her, and then there she was. Anyways, yeah, okay. Good find, Andela. So for me, she was Dine, like an ordinary spelling. So, okay, so back to the Frozen thing. Walt Disney, I had not heard of him being the first one ever cryogenically frozen in my original timeline. And then for a number of years, it was suddenly everywhere. Did you know that he was the first person to ever be cryogenically frozen, blah, blah, blah. This was before I knew about the Mandela. And so I heard it everywhere, and I was like, wow, and I read articles on it. I'm like, this is cool. And it was a thing for a while in some timelines. Okay, Andela, for me, she's saying, because for me it was Jane Goodall who studied gorillas and was murdered. Now Diane Fossey who studied them and was murdered, but her name is... Yes, that's exactly. And then the spelling change. So Jane Goodall, for me, basically, in the 90s, there was a big thing that she died, and she was murdered. And there was, all the drama on TV and and the funerals and all that. And it was very similar time. She died just shortly. It was I'm pretty sure it was just after, but it was very close in time to when Mandela died. So there was 2 in a row that died and very close within a month or something. Mandela and Jane Goodall. And then suddenly Mandela was alive again. And I was like, what? I saw all these funeral services. And then Jane Goodall was alive again. And I'm like, I really thought I was losing it. I'm like, man, I'm just studying too hard. I'm not getting enough sleep or something. Because I swear to God, she was dead. But then they said it was Diane Fossey. And I never heard of Diane Fossey. So Diane Fossey basically just showed up as the one to die, I guess, so Jane Goodall could live. I don't know. But I never heard of Diane Fossey ever. And I'm like, maybe I confused Jane Goodall with Diane Fossey. I'm like, no, I've never heard of Diane Fossey. When somebody said she died, I'm like, who's that? I wouldn't have been like, oh, yeah, she's the gorilla person, because I had never heard of her. So that whole thing was just weird then. Looking back on it, the main reason I really remember that is because I had went to this remote viewing conference, and somebody there said that they remembered Jane Goodall dying, and they just mentioned it out of the blue, and I had not discussed one peep of my own opinions on it, so I was shocked. And then it really stuck in my head because that two people had said the same thing. Yeah, I'd never heard of Diane Fossey, and yeah, it was almost like she was created to take the place of the Jane Goodall death, but she had an E on her name up until just recently. Walt Disney's head was frozen in my timeline. Oh, it's interesting. Sorry. He wanted to, but supposedly just missed the chance, and Ted Williams ended up being one of the first cryogenic preservation customers. That's interesting. So it was one of those close call things in this timeline. Some say his cartoons like Snow White hinted cryogenics, the Sleeping Beauty. Actually, now that you mention it, yeah. Okay, so one more. I only have one more, so it's going to be a short show because I'm blasting along pretty quick with less monologues than usual. One kind of gross one for the end of the show. Let's see. Let me make sure that I gave everybody their credits. Okay, so Star Cities was Thomas Larson. Good find. I think everybody got their credits. Yeah, the rest of these have been mine. This woodpecker. So, woodpeckers, you would think that they, poke into the wood to get out insects. Little old woodpeckers. Well, apparently now they're being discovered that will drill into your skull and eat your brains. Woodpeckers. Not so cute anymore, So they were spotted I think those needle noses were only made for eating insects. Think again. So they were discovered drilling birds and sucking out their brains. So this was a Gila woodpecker. It would attack. It was attacking these chicks, and just extracting all the material. And then they're saying, "Oh, well, it's because they're thirsty." I don't know. I mean, just go drink some water or something, like all the other birds. But so no, it's pretty gross. I don't know. Do I need to really go into it? But basically, they just they've been observed accepting sweat meat, the fat around cows and sheep kidneys at feeding stations, and have also been seen chowing down on beef bones and bacon rinds. Furthermore, the birds have been recorded preying on earthworms, small lizards, nestlings, and eggs. Those who study the birds tell the tale, however. A lifelong woodpecker expert known for his work on the ivory-billed woodpecker says he's witnessed this gruesome behavior occasionally in red-bellied and red-headed woodpeckers, both species closely related to the Gila. They do generally go for the skull and brain, says Jackson. A young bird's skull is soft, some part of it not becoming hard bone until after the bird leaves the nest. This feeding behavior is essentially the same as the woodpecker feeding on fruits. Large fruit with a tough rind, only the pulp inside is brain tissue. I don't think it's the same, guys. I'm sorry. Anyway, so that's the story. Woodpeckers eat brains now. Woohoo. The other one I saw, which is also gross now that I'm on the subject, is, when it first came out, I thought it was a little strange where they were saying that, like, the male lions would, like, kill the kittens that weren't their own so that the female would go into heat again. And I've suspected that's a Mandela, but it's kind of an older one. So that behavior spread, and so now hippopotamuses do it too. So there's like, I don't know, this whole eating of the young thing is kind of a thing lately. It's pretty gross. Gila is pronounced with an H like Gila. Okay, Gila monster. Gila. I don't know, because I know there's Gila monster for the lizards, but I don't know how to pronounce it for the woodpeckers. I mean, you'd think there'd be horror stories about woodpeckers attacking brains or something. Brains. Yeah. Bird brain, good. Has anybody watched Moneybag's video about the blouse color change? No, I don't think I remember that, but I do think, isn't it Moneybags who just did one about the Matrix, it's Mr. Smith, the Matrix. Have you guys seen that one? Please make a Discord server so other views can stay in touch. Every time we make a Discord server for something, like, nobody goes to it. So, like, there's a Discord server for retcons already. There's been multiple ones made. Every few years somebody goes, oh, let's do a Discord server, but it always dies. Nobody goes there. So that's why now we're like, I'm not doing it again. They had a picture of this cryogenic capsule thing Disney is in under Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, that was the old story. For me, he was just frozen, and then he was kept in, like, the place where they keep them, like the facility, because you have to keep the electricity and stuff. But apparently there was some timeline where they put him under the Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, I never saw that timeline, but that is part of the rumor mill now. I had not heard of it until just now, though, so I don't know that timeline. Okay, so I don't know. Did you guys see the Mr. Smith? You guys who watch The Matrix? Mr. Smith. Okay, let's find those images. Dun, 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 dun. All right, unless you've already seen it. If you've already seen this Mandela, then don't say anything. But if you haven't seen this Mandela, what is different about the Mr. Smiths here? What do you see that sticks out as something maybe different? I think this was Moneybags, but I just saw it like on Redcon, and then I saw it on I think it was Mandela Effect subreddit, and then somebody said it came from one of the videos. So I think the source was Moneybags, but I'm not 100% sure because I didn't like check his source. Here he is again to see if sometimes he picks them up from somebody else and then mentions it. I didn't actually watch his show because it was just like just a little bit earlier today. I really didn't have time to deal with it. So do you see anything that looks... Now, interestingly, it's not showing on this clip art at all. It's not showing on this clip art. But it is showing over here. Angels Don't Fall, tie clip. The tie, yep. Gaga's dress changed at the inauguration. See, I don't know what Gaga's dress was. I just don't. I haven't been watching much of that stuff. So, I mean, did it change in the middle of the inauguration, or is it just like you saw it and then a week later it was different? I mean, are we just talking about this recent inauguration? Because that's interesting if it's changed and it's only been, what, a week? So it used to be these changes would go back like 6 months, a year, 3 years. So if it's changed a week ago, to me it just seems like the space between things, the space between the changes is narrower. Like, you used to be, okay, well, I saw something 5 years ago. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. But if you just saw it a week ago and it's changed already, that's weird. But I didn't watch the inauguration. I might have saw like 5 seconds of like a photo of it, but I just didn't. Lady Gaga's blouse inauguration changed from white to black. And it's pretty extreme change too. Purple and orange lightning in one thunderstorm. Yes, that is weird. But, that was all white for me, all of the lightning. It's the fastest I've seen it change. Okay, yeah. I don't know. There just seems to be this big stream of personal Mandelas. I mean, I've been seeing them all along, so I don't know if it's just that people are seeing them more. I mean, it's just dumb little things. A lot of mine, like, there's this gas station on a corner that I cut across. Instead of waiting behind a whole bunch of people all jammed up at the light, I'll just cut through this parking lot to make a right turn all the time. So I knew right where the driveway was to come off to get on the other street. I knew right where it was. And like a couple days ago, I aimed for the driveway and there's a car blocking it. But I'm like, oh, the driveway's right behind the car. And then I drive around the car and the driveway wasn't there. It used to be over far to the side of the lot. And now it was over here, way more in the middle. It used to be way in the corner. So I like aim right for where I know the driveway is, and it wasn't there. It was over here now. And it's, there's been no recent work. The pavement is all old. It's been there for years. It's not fresh pavement. They didn't change anything. It's just never was in that spot now. So, it's funny how you just get in this habit where you just know, and then suddenly you're like, ugh, so just little street things like that, it's just like, it's just, weird. The 20th was a strange day. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Madonna really showed weird symbolism at Super Bowl. Yeah, I just didn't watch it. I don't know. I just can't stand to watch that stuff anymore. It just seems like. So I just let people tell me about it. If it's really interesting, I'll go back and look at it. But I just can't stand to listen to politicians, any of them. It's all fake. It's all, lies. It's just, I don't know. Things are changing fast now, and it feels like it's getting faster. Yeah, it's like almost like it's percolated down towards the personal level more or something. It used to be like this global stuff far away, but it's like it's getting more in people's faces. Gaga had a nervous breakdown, said demons or dark forces would not leave her alone. Huh. This Friday morning it was white, afternoon it was black. Wow, that's interesting. In the recent inauguration, there's one dress that is purple in one photo and red in another. Yeah, it could just be, costume, wardrobe changes. That wouldn't be that weird. But if the old dress is gone, then yeah, that's a shift. Or if it's the same scene. All the other women performing were in white. So yeah, anyway, the Matrix one is the tie clip. I totally do not remember all of this Mr. Smith's having these tie clips, and it jumped right out at me immediately. It's just weird looking. Yeah, no, that wasn't on there. So I don't know, whoever found it, good find. That's just wrong, and they all have it. You know, The Matrix is definitely one I've seen, especially the first one, a number of times. And I don't know, they're such plain characters. It's like Darth Vader, you know, when all those colors started showing up on him, it was so obvious because he used to be a very plain looking character. So it sticks out. Hearts was saying that even non-affected noticed the dress changing. Ooh, that's interesting. So that's like an opportunity for us to introduce the Mandela effect since it's classic Mandela. The Bible he was using was strange too, looked like old witch's book with upside down cross. Yeah, what's up with the upside down Bibles? It was there was like Trump was holding it upside down in front of that church. And now we've got weird stuff with Biden, apparently. After stealing the toothbrush, I think I missed the boat on what you're talking about there. I'm listening to very mixed videos, and they're all saying the same thing about the event and everything that's going to happen. Yeah, I think we're going to see some more weird stuff, definitely. We just have to stay the course, you know, work really hard on manifesting the reality you want to see, the routes around problems for yourself and those you care about, and good people. Always look for the ways around problems. Some say the black flag with eagle was a black magic thing. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like all of it is just weird symbolism anymore. Oh, yeah, the Arctic ice cap thing, Mandela. Okay, so for me, there was a continent on the Arctica was a continent on the North Pole with high cliffs of ice, and there was land underneath it. So that was my ice cap with, there was land and ice, not just ice. And then we got into a timeline where it was just floating sea ice. And then there was a timeline where it was in the summer, no ice. It was completely open seas in the summer, and then a little bit of ice in the winter. And that one blew me away because then there was nothing. Okay. But that was only like maybe a few months, 6 months that there was floating sea ice. And then they said that there was ice all the time, but it would constantly kind of melt and reform. So it was semi-permanent, but not permanent. And that has been the case for quite some time for me, like 3 years now. It's been like kind of semi-permanent ice. I mean, I haven't really checked it just this last 5 minutes, but it seems like it was pretty steady. So that timeline I was in where there was open waters in summer was just like a short-lived visit. So that's what I'm at. So for me, the ice cap has been around for 3 years, but the land and all of the dirt under it has been gone this whole time. Oh, yeah, I heard about Photohelix, and I hope he had a good pass to the other side. I kind of figured it was getting close because they were going to have him on some shows, and he was too tired. And once it gets like that, I don't know. It's just, I've had a number of people die of cancer in my life, and there's a point where you just hope they'll have a swift passing at some point. So I hope it went well for them. It's very hard. And it's been open waters for 3 years for me. Yeah, I don't know. You must have been in that timeline longer than me then. So I guess welcome. I don't know what he died. Yeah, he had cancer. I believe it was lung. I don't know. It seems like there's just a lot of breath, lung, heart things going on this year. A number of people I've known, not really close, but people I did care about had heart attacks in the last year. Lung cancer, lung problems. It's all like right here, right now. So I guess I feel like we really got to do our best to work on being kind to others, love, those kind of things. Try to keep that area clear of poisons because I think it's harder right now. So yeah, rest in peace. Hopefully he's on, a better place now. Yeah, he might, who the heck knows? Maybe he's in another timeline now. Or I always wonder about that. People die and maybe in another timeline they recovered, People are leaving this realm very quickly. Yes. Well, anyways, sorry to end on a sad note with the brain-eating birds and the passage of one of our own, but I guess it's time to head on out. So thanks, everybody, for coming. Think good thoughts, everybody. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.